Where am I? All right. Limbo. I thought I was finally done with my task, but now I see there's still doors to open. I thought they stopped at 4. Was that just me pretending? No rest for the wicked. Let's see what's behind door number 5.
Oh no!
Okay, so this might seem a weird way to open this video, but trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Ahem. Resident Evil 4 is a critically acclaimed video game. This game, not that one, this game is beloved, and it deserves all the credit it gets. Though you should not forget, it spent years in the kitchen, morphing from the fascinating in hindsight Hookman demo, or becoming a completely different genre at one point. They knew this needed to be special, and once they figured out the free aiming system, it became the very core of that game, coalescing into one of the best paced video games I've ever played. Something that, even if you're a fan of the series for its more survival horror aspects, any worries were cushioned by the quality of the game. And hey, it's not like the B-movie tone or the horror atmosphere went away, so every fan still had something to latch onto. Yeah, the opening cleans the slate, depicting the very downfall of the series' background villain, Umbrella. Sure, I understand that. Though have you ever wondered why Leon is the protagonist? Or how the rocket launcher is the top tier weapon? They knew what to hold on to keep it distinctly Resident Evil. So why are we opening a Breath of Fire video with another Capcom game? Well, I guess I'm just pining for the reality where this also happened to dragonquarter. Now, don't get me wrong, this is the game the director wanted to make, nor is this a complaint of the title's quality. More, I wonder how the Breath of Fire series would have continued if dragonquarter became its own series, a la Devil May Cry, with Breath of Fire keeping some connection to its roots and maybe prospering well into the future. Because, spoiler alert, dragonquarter was mired with 50-50 splits in reviews. For some, it's a drastic departure from what people liked, and that shows in the sales, moving less than half the units of the previous Breath of Fire title. Now, it sits along the forgotten, sharing space in the bargain bin with Chaos Legion and Shadow of Rome? Its last gasp at relevancy was a mobile game that is now lost media. So game is bad, right? Series made a sharp turn, fans of the series disliked the approach, and now we can just forget about it. I would love a narrative that simple. Alas, dragonquarter is pretty good. Maybe bordering on a critic's game, and I need to stress that I don't blame the fans for not liking it. There's a reason why I opened with the Resident Evil comparison. Despite its apparent quality, it's still not the series it used to be, creating momentum in a logical but ultimately different direction. Resident Evil would not be survival horror again for a long time, and even then the perspective shifted once more. It's a harsher comparison, but imagine playing Devil May Cry for the first time but it's called Resident Evil 4. What? Is the lightning the T-virus? Who is this? Okay, but what's this got to do with the armor? This is a Spencer mention? Chris! Cool, come another on, Rebecca prequel. This is so dumb. Can Chris really not do math? No! Don't open that door! You lose, big guy! Why isn't Leon simply high time Birkin today? Is this Chris's dud? I guess it's up to us to take down Umbrella. How would you feel with the iconic dragon mechanic of Breath of Fire turned against you? Oh, you like the power fantasy? Have you ever thought about the consequences of your actions? Maybe becoming a dragon is a bad thing. That's enough preamble, I think. Let's really dig in and show you the vilified black sheep that is dragonquarter. D ratio. The potential of a person made manifest, directly shown on the body. A barcode that identifies you as who you are. A low number marks you as someone of importance, a member of high society, or bound for greater things. The larger the ratio, however, the deeper you live. Low Ds serve as salvagers, maintenance, and grunts. Bosch 1/64 is joined by Ryu 1/8192. Both members of the Rangers, a peacekeeping force. They are charged with escorting Biocorp's top secret cargo. Now, it's hard to break down this game in my normal review structure. It's doable for sure, but if I stuck to the old ways, you wouldn't get the dragonquarter experience. Instead, I think I'll take you through the game bit by bit and bring up things as we go along. Buckle up, it's a scary ride. Something obvious that will jump out at you immediately is the filter you're seeing. That's not me adding it in post. That comes with the game. That's part of the art style. That noise grain effect? It adds a bit of texture to the art style. On the whole, it has this cold industrial feel to it, all being captured on a network of surveillance cameras, with pockets of human life being your only solace in this dank world. I could use the word dank, right? We know what that word means, right? If you're a fan of the man-made subterrane, congratulations! It's 80% of this game. A few surprises will be waiting for you, and some of the areas don't get the exploration they deserve. Stuff like the flooded mall is by far my favorite idea this game presents. I can't think of any other game that's had a flooded shopping center. It's awesome. Honestly, I wish there were more social areas. I would love to explore a large low sector. We can't waste our time shopping here. We have a tram to catch. Or not. They expect me, Bosch, 1 over 64, to walk to the labs? What is the world coming to? Foreshadowing aside, it's time for a lovely stroll through Railtown. A lovely touch is you can see something went down with this rail as you move across it. Well, I don't know who crashed this minecart, but it's my loot now. I'm just recovering it, yeah? This whole area serves as a tutorial for dragonquarter, and it's probably the easiest place to start. You know how in most JRPGs, the field is a place you run around in? Whether that's the overworld or a dungeon, it's a chance to explore, solve puzzles, find treasure, have story happen to you. Combat dimension or no, it's very rare that it affects the battlescape. Sometimes it's built to function as both, see Final Fantasy XII, but it's hard to separate them in dragonquarter, because the field is the battlescape. Any room you are currently exploring pulls double duty as the battlefield, which creates such a fun system. Like, look here, I attacked them. This pulls us into an almost one-to-one version for the fight to take place. You could be surprised by how an enemy functions the first time you encounter them. However, the environment is your advantage. Granted, you won't be formulating these elaborate plans as you observe the enemies from on high, devising their very defeat. No. The terrain is just not complex enough for that to happen, though keeping your eyes out can create small advantages. This is great and all, but like, the best I can do is get a free turn in? I feel there's way more potential in a system like this. And maybe the devs had bigger ideas? Thankfully, they at least gave us traps. While wandering, you can find items to throw in the field. Things like dynamite, mushrooms, mines. It's funny that despite all the choices we are given, that includes fire bombs, the coolest of bombs, the most basic throwable, fresh meat is by far the strongest. What does it do? Well, you throw it, and the enemies eat it. Give yourself some time with the system, and you quickly learn that repositioning enemies is a godsend. Late game, I'm just chucking fresh meat to check corners to stop any nasty surprises. Grouping up enemies is great for quick AoE blast fests, magical or gunpowder. Bombs cannot be set inside of a battle, so preparation is required for optimal application. This system is balanced by the fact you're only allowed 3 out at a time, so the devs can play around with that number. This is a lot to take in for the beginning of the game, so the fights are few, exploration is encouraged, and if you do get into a scrape, Bosch is much stronger than Ryu at this point. He's your safety net for this section. Didn't stop me from biffing it. The duo reach Biocorp soon enough, and I guess walk into the war crime room? Why are the skeletons tied up to girders? Why is there a giant dragon stapled to the wall? What's that? No, seriously, why is there an icon on my screen? It's still here after moving to a new room? And it's with me for battles as well? That's ominous. Biocorp is also filled with monsters, or rather Genix as they're called. They are responsible for the creatures we fight throughout the game. I don't think Biocorp is a good company, and I swear that's not because of the kaiju centerpiece. Barely making the tram, Ryu and Bash ride it to its destination. On the journey, Bash asks Ryu for his scores. I think they mean like commendation or boosted reports? Bash wants to go places, and with his D ratio, it's practically guaranteed. His stint in the Rangers is just a career move. Ryu, however, will never be more than a grunt. Once Bash is promoted, maybe he can help Ryu too. Before we get an answer, Trinity blows up the tram. Awakening at the bottom of a canyon, along with a broken container, Ryu catches a glimpse of a Gina carrying away what looks like a girl with wings? This triggers something new in him. The girl who can barely speak her own name is Nina. And a little further in, we encounter the woman who blew up the train in search of her, named Lynn. They temporarily join forces to get out of the old waste sector, a place filled to the brim with bottom feeders. This title's mood is definitely oppressive. The game could be nothing but clean and shiny. The atmosphere never goes away though. According to the manual, this game only really touches on the basics. The earth was decimated by fire, water turns to poison. Humans' only recourse was to flee underground, creating an era of machines. Now rusted and decayed, the very air is becoming deadly to breathe. If this subterrane had a golden age, it's long since passed. I never felt comfortable or at ease, thanks partly to this crushing mood. You constantly walk through concrete corridors, mazes of metal pipes, active power plants, and you can only imagine how this place possibly still functions. Clouded in an eternal fog that hides even the safe areas. All punctuated by somber moments. The Breath of Fire series is not shy about dark ideas or themes. It's actually why I like them. Well, at least 1 to 3. I haven't got around to 4 yet. Don't worry, it's on the very short list, trust me. However, with dragonquarter, it's sometimes everything. There's a scene with Nina in a hospital bed later on. I could have left this whole section completely unwritten and presented this scene. Oh man, it's getting a little heavy in here. Don't worry though, it gets worse. What, worse? How could it possibly get worse? Bosch intercepts Ryu, ordered to dispose of the cargo. Ryu tries to stop him, but God, battle transition? Wait, what? After the fight, nobody knows what the hell is going on, but thankfully, there's a save point right after the cutscene. Thank God. It feels like I've been playing for hours. Why does the thing in the corner now have a number? I don't care, it's time to save. Yes, I would like to use it. Wait, sorry. What? Hold on. Use a save token. Does this game have limited use items for saving? Like, ink ribbons? Oh no. Oh no 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 no. And now we get to the part where the very game mechanics keep you on your toes. Limited saves. And a small inventory. I don't think I need to tell you why this is such a departure for the genre. I know I've played other JRPGs that have had weird save systems, but nothing comes to mind for being this direct. Thinking about where and when to save will always be on your mind. I'll come back to this when talking about the difficulty. Suffice to say, it's the linchpin in creating the constant tension for dragonquarter, supported by the inventory system. Now, that has been played with over the years, especially with the classic generations. But 2 pages of 5 slots? Sheesh! Let's see. Carry in a save token, 2 stacks of healing items, a revive, fresh meat, handful of bombs, and maybe 1 antidote. That leaves me with a tight 3 empty slots early game. Strangely enough, in a JRPG, this is still not a problem. And as you progress, you can find backpacks that expand your inventory way past that. If you're being thorough in fights, that is. So how can dragonquarter create interesting choices in this limited system? With a whole load of question marks. The only thing more valuable than items is good gear. Better stats lead to easier fights, which itself means less damage taken. So scattered around in boxes, dropped or stolen from monsters is unidentified equipment. You can sorta gauge how good something is by its level modifier. A something plus 7 is probably really good, though each piece takes up 1 whole inventory slot. What's worse is, even if not a direct or a potential side grade, once turned into usable gear, it's generally worth a pretty penny, much more than the cost of identification. So if you're not careful, you will drown with a full inventory. What's more important right now? A whatever plus 2 or this medkit? Something needs to be dropped to get this valuable skill from this chest, and no, you can't pick it back up. Make your choice. As to why it ended up this way, being such a departure from the other in the series, I'm not entirely sure. Reading things online, I think it was both thanks to an impression from a novel the director was really interested in, and a desire to make this entry more difficult. Maybe seeing how Resident Evil handles its inventory was an inspiration, or the natural conclusion from the game's structure. Hacking away things like random battles and introducing tactical combat could bring you to this gameplay style, or at least something close to this conclusion. Meanwhile, the crew arrived back at Low Sector and, man, is it nice to be back in a friendly place. Hello, ma'am. I would like 20 antidotes. No reason why. They figure if they want to find out more about Nina, Biocorp is the obvious destination. Denied at the door, we head back to maybe buy a key card. A group of clout chasers were waiting for you, armed with nerve gas? They heard you were trouble. Can never be too careful, they say as people suffocate in the background. This is not a hard fight. Poison is actually way nastier on the field than in battles. But it's here I learn a valuable lesson. I see this guy with a gun and I think, I should line of sight him to make this easier. And that works! Only to be blindsided by the mage. Magic does not follow the same rules. Noted. There are 2 ways to approach this information. Call it bullshit for acting differently, or take the L. And now understand that Nina never needs to see her targets. I would recommend the latter. The ruffians defeated, Ryu tries to stop the flow of gas. Unfortunately, they're also complete knobheads. Stealing the valve to the canister. He collapses shortly after. Waking up after the incident, he wonders why he's still alive. Nina absorbed the gas somehow. Her wings are now covered in dirt particles. That can't be good. But hey, at least we're inside Biocorp now. While running through the labs, I'm also surprised by the music. Not that it's bad, it's a pretty good OST. More that it comes from the game's composer, Hitoshi Sakimoto. He's an industry vet by this point, contributing music or at least audio for, holy hell, 80 games? He has a style that's easily identifiable. Give that man a synth orchestra and he will produce you some amazing tracks no matter the mood. Whether that's hopeful skirmishes, intense exploration, the Final Fantasy Tactics soundtrack being my absolute favorite of his. Thing is, with so many games in his style, sometimes it all blends together. So, revisiting Dragonquarter, I knew I was in for a good time, but nothing surprising. Boy, was I wrong! My man understood the assignment. We still have tracks that clearly match his style. Everything else carries the sci-fi theming of the world. And just helping you relax in the sparse town sections. Cutscenes are not usually scored, opting for the more cinematic qualities. When the music does kick in, something is going down. There's so many more things I could say. Oh, we're here? This dungeon was short. This is where we learn some of the truth about Nina. She is, for a lack of a better term, a living, breathing air purifier. A prototype, able to be deployed in remote areas to improve the atmosphere. The incident at Low Sector has basically doomed her to death. She was not built with durability in mind, of course. Ryu swears to take her to a place with clean air so she can survive. And there's only one place that fits the bill. The surface. Skipping a little ahead past the ice caves, now we get to what I consider as this game's mean streak. They intend on taking Nina away by any means necessary, starting a brutal 3-stage encounter. First phase, deal with mixed enemies that rush you from all sides. Second is a tank that forever summons supports, with a third beefy boss flanked by mages. This is a sink or swim moment. Do you understand how this battle system works? Did you perform well enough to have healing items on hand to reverse any misfortune? Remember when I said magic can pass through walls? It's time to put that knowledge to good use. Enemies can block movement of each other. Every trick in the book is useful here. If you manage to survive the onslaught, an even more difficult section awaits. So here's a good point to talk about the battle system in more depth. Hi, groggy editing Fuzzy here. No, this is not, I don't put a voice, I just sound like this in the morning. You might have noticed I've been hesitant to show combat footage in the video, and that's because of this weird zooming effect. When I was playing the game, I didn't really think much of it other than, oh, that looks kind of bad, but like whatever. But now I'm watching it through on my editing timeline, and it looks garbage. It looks awful. That could trigger someone's motion sickness. So I'm probably going to continue to not show as much, or I'm going to try and edit around it. So if something looks a little iffy, that's probably why. I'm trying to spare everyone. Okay guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get 10 million subscribers. On the surface, it is not a complicated game. You need targets in range to attack. Duh. The AP bar up top is both your movement and your resource to attack with. Any leftover AP will carry over to the next turn. Faster people go first. That's all you need to know to play the game, really. It's everything around it that makes it fun to talk about. Ryu is your frontline guy. Hits stuff with a sword real good. Depending on how you spec him, he can be more offensive or defensive. Creating space with kicks and reducing the enemy's stats. Nina casts spells, making her the AoE glass cannon. How this game makes her interesting is magical traps. So as long as you have the skill or the AP, you can place a trap anywhere on the battlefield. Up to 3 times. The most compelling thing I find about the traps is the enemies will react to them if it completely blocks their pathfinding. So you gotta make sure it leaves some room if you actually want them to walk into it. Unless that was the plan all along. Boxing in melee targets can give you a free turn to save up AP, creating an explosive second turn. And at the end we have Lyn. Lyn carries a gun, completing the Holy Trinity. She's not as strong as the others at first, also can't move that fast. She can start fights at range unlike the other two. And if you're unfamiliar with what you're fighting, Lyn's scan is vital to your survival. She also has a very nice knockback. Remember when I said you placed those traps? And the very rude enemy just walked around them? Nah. As everyone acquires more skills, you'll adopt a strategy that fits how you want to play. Which is ideal as clearing difficult fights fast rewards you with Party XP, a currency you can spend at any point to level whoever you so choose. Me? I want this fight over with fast, so we do the most riskiest thing before the fight starts. Get a field strike with Nina. This is why fresh meat is so vital to me. It also combats Nina's field attack. Striking an enemy is treated differently depending on who performed it. Ryu keeps them in stabbing distance, Lyn just fucking shoots them. Nina normally creates space by knocking them back into Narnia. That's good, right? Well, yeah, sure, but not for AoE situations. So we throw meat at a wall. It's obvious why this is risky. Dance with the wrong enemy and she dies first turn. Whoever field strikes gets pushed to the front of the party. Dragonquarter is punishing. If you're not in control of things, it can spiral quickly. You will crawl and suffer through these zones, worried about your dwindling item supply. And in the industrial zone, you will curse your very nature. In the middle of this whole area is a somewhat nasty boss. Quick to act, causes sleeping, and worse, steals your team's stats. If you manage to come out on top, afterwards you are given a branching path. Right door! Oh shit, wrong door. Danger rooms are the game's way of making sure you pay the toll. Locking all the doors the moment you enter, and only letting you leave once everything that's not you is dead. And what's the worst thing they can lock you in with? A mini-boss. And once you triumph, you might think, well, that was rough. Though I wonder, what was down that other path? If you let this errant thought win, all you'll have is another mini-boss with a scant collection of items to call a reward. Congratulations, a trap was sprung. Treating Dragonquarter as a JRPG is important. Better stats equal easier fights after all. Nevertheless, failing to think why the boss had a cutscene, letting curiosity guide your judgment, leads to hell itself. The assassin you fought at the entrance to all of this is now waiting for you. He thanks you for killing his friends, as now he absorbs both of their traits. Faster speed, stronger defensives, and an expanded skill set. Prepare for a reality check. I've played games that have been commentaries on JRPG design, or have tried to punish me for such behavior. This example was a shock to the system. I know this game is difficult, that the gains will be minimal. However, to so effectively sweep me off my feet in a single hour of gameplay is shocking. It made me have to rely on my crutch. I'm sure by now you're curious why the thing in the corner has a percent, but I can tell you it's been steadily increasing as I've played. This, my dear viewers, is your D gauge, and yes, it has been awkward saying D's all the time. D ratio. I went 1 second without laughing. Damn you modern internet. This meter is the limit of your dragon form. Anything done inside that form adds percentage to the meter. Basically, until that meter reaches 100%, you have an overwhelming power on your side. Any battle you choose to use it in will be swiftly ended. First turn ended. But that begs the question, what happens when it hits max? And the consequence of hitting 100% is your game is over. Like, go back to the main menu over. Oh, okay, so you can reduce that percentage, right? No. Anything spent in dragon form is permanent. It will hang over your head like a sword of Damocles. So if you used it, I hope it was worth it. And you want to know the messed up thing about dragonquarter? The key ingredient that creates a constant air of unease? The percentage is always rising. Every turn in battle raises it by 0.01%. Running around in the fields caused it to tick away to your impending doom. I cannot explain how uncomfortable shopping is sometimes. The social area after this boss fight is a ruined mall, with all the merchants spread around peddling their wares. Imagine me double checking to make sure I'm prepared, bouncing around each merchant. I'm not looking at the environment, my eyes are fixed to the D gauge, which is clearly rising, even when there is no visible danger. You would think this is a place to decompress and actually relax. Dragonquarter creates tangible fear for your first playthrough, and I have no other words for it. It's fucked up. And I love it! From here, it's mostly a straight shot into the last parts of the game. There was a point where I could explore an optional area. I got my ass kicked frame 1 and ran away crying. On the bright side, someone does offer me a bed to sleep in. Oh, thank God! Something finally like a video game in to rest my wounds. Nope. It leads straight into a boss fight. You are given nothing. We do learn that in order to reach the surface, 4 keys must be acquired. And in a short time, we are at the belly of the beast. Center. A place like nothing else. It exudes power and status. After every zone, you are offered a branching path that leads to 1 or 2 bosses. So even on repeat playthroughs, unless you retrace your steps, a different gauntlet awaits you. And would it be surprising to you that from this point forward, the mechanics are now dialed up to 11? The regions have barriers that regenerate once your attack ends, meaning any turn needs to be carefully thought out. Flailing gets you 0 progress. Add to that the most damage you've seen up to this point, with unique scenarios, you will be tested. From the deepest pits of the seven hells to the pinnacle of the heavens, the world shall tremble. Unleash chess! The devs also play a little prank on you, just a smidge of a prank, as a treat. Whenever you get to a new area, a save point is usually within sight. In center, it's missing. Just a handful of merchants. In order to find the save point, you gotta explore the first few rooms. How evil is that? It does help push the sense of dread you're feeling. Push beyond center, and the geo elevator is within reach. Wonderful. Merchants, let me stock up. Okay. Time to save. I said time to... Oh no. Here of all places, I run out of save tokens. Outside what I think is the final boss? My last save file is over 2 hours ago, behind two of the toughest fights I've encountered. The gravity of the situation hits me all at once. There was an easy way out though. I've neglected to talk about a system in dragonquarter simply called Give Up. With fights being fixed one-time events, money dependent on what you find, and a mechanic that can brick your game, Give Up is your way of keeping some of the progress no matter what happens to you. What it does, it kicks you back to the very start of the game. You keep whatever gear you have on you or in storage, and any accumulated party XP. And as you can see, I've managed to get you without the system. I owned dragonquarter when I was younger, and in my entire time on this planet, I've only gone to the center once. I never saw past the chess boss. And why would I see anything? Nobody talks about this bloody game online. No errant spoilers found on the World Wide Web. This is entirely fresh territory for me. I sat a while, considering the give up. I could come back stronger, more prepared with a save in hand. Though I've already spent 16 hours to get here. This is a short game for a JRPG standards. However, that's still a long time for anything else. I decided to walk forward, cursed with the knowledge that whatever happens in there, behind that door, happens. And it's here I'll put up some spoiler warnings. After this point, I'll be talking about the ending, and after that, the changes that come from the retry system, plus the general story and lore that happens around the characters, just in case you want to see what's through this door for yourself. With no fanfare, it swings wide open to reveal an elevator. I checked the whole room just to be safe, simply because of the lack of music is getting to me. dragonquarter loves leaving you in silence sometimes. Pull that lever and ascend further and further upwards. Intercepted by a person covered in blue runes. The situation is made quite apparent the moment the fight starts. Kill Elyon before we reach the surface. Who's Elyon? Well, you see... Once defeated, we simply need to walk into the next room. Something that this game does is it displays how far you are from the surface at all times, above the minimap. And according to the big map, I have never been closer. Stepping through, everything seems normal. Until our dear friend shows up. I had to skip over him earlier for pace's sake. We meet him again on our way towards center. Basch fused himself with something draconic in nature. And whoever is in front of us right now is not the same person. The first part of this boss fight is easy enough, twin wake notwithstanding. It's what takes place afterwards that's the real problem. Welcome to the other side. There might be a way to break through its defenses, but at this moment I only saw one option. I have 50% D-gauge left, right? Surely this is the final boss. My decision making allowed me to play my cards just right for me to use this option. The game may have told me I won. It does not help the sinking feeling I have in my chest. I know what happens when that gauge hits 100%. Whether that's for Ryu or... Everything you've done up to this point will hit you like a brick wall. The dragon sits in the middle of the arena, almost out of range. Nina and Lynn are paralyzed with fear. They cannot act. That sinking feeling becomes an abyss as you realize you only have one option. Dragon Breath. A held continuous attack that trades gauge for damage. An absurdly powerful attack. And now you have to sit there, button clenched, as your meter rapidly ticks towards your doom. Is this a failure state? Did I fuck up by using it too much? In the last possible moment you have to curse your very being. How could I have let this happen? My greed ruined everything. My prize is surely watching my friends get crushed under the overwhelming power of the dragon. I sit in horror as... Wait, where's Ryu going? Oh, a noble sacrifice? I'm okay with that. That's better. That's a better ending. What? What is happening? The seal is finally open. Ryu, at death's door, asks Lynn to take Nina to see the world. Ojin, the being inside Ryu, chats with him about how only someone of his willpower could have seen this ending. Some talk about programs? I'm not sure what that's about. There's time for that later. For now, live your new life under the blue sky. Of all the ways I thought this game would end, anime beam struggle was not one of them. It clashes with the tone, or at least I think so. It's still got an emotion out of me, so we'll give her a pass. And with all that, roll credits. So, with that, we're done here, right? Done? Yeah, we've talked about the whole game, showed off the ending, all that jazz. You okay? You don't even know why any of this happened, do you? Well, it's because of the dragon, Ojin or whatever. No. This goes deeper than you think it does. Deeper than the center. Deeper than Elyon. Far below where the ants live. Ants? That's ants with a Z, you cretin! To understand any of this, my friend, you must pass go. You must collect $200. You must return to the beginning. Upon completion of the game, you are given a new D ratio, which is dependent on, God, so many things. Here's a short list. As you explored, you most likely came across doors that would not let you pass. Inside are optional areas full of cool mystery things that will make you stronger. There's even a new area type for those who really get a high ratio. But that's basically the gameplay reason to give dragonquarter another go. The other reason becomes apparent very quickly. A system that sprinkles in more and more plot as your playthroughs progress. If you retry at key points, you get some story up to your point of failure. Those are the easy scenes to get. You're locked out of the very important ones until you've reached a certain D ratio. I hit a respectable 1/1024. Unfortunately, I need something much higher to get the full story. Why is the D ratio named after percentages? We'll get into that. Everything from this point will be shown on my 1/256, or basically my third playthrough. And there's a lot of details and lore that get dotted throughout, though for me there are two big questions that we should talk about. Who, or maybe what, is Nina? And who is Ojin? Let's start with the obvious. Nina. From several cutscenes we can infer quite a few things. Nina is most likely a low D taken or kidnapped from the slums. The world already pushes them to the bottom of the food chain. No one would notice if one went missing. We can also see a scientist grow the wings in a lab before all this went down. These were most likely surgically crafted onto her, but that wasn't enough. The last thing they did was damage or remove her vocal cords, so she could not tell others what happened. A person, let alone a child, being turned into a sentient air freshener is kinda fucked up. Apparently, it used to be worse. The director said he wanted to take the tone darker across the game, but backpedaled a little bit, saying at one point the player found lockers lined across the room, all filled with headless Ninas. Reading things like that makes you think, okay, so some of Nina's creation will probably be ambiguous. And it is. About the headless thing, though. They're already creating clones of her, and what I assume is a commercial model? If this went through without incident, it would have improved the air for those who could have afforded it. However, this world is already fucked in so many ways. It would have been a human-shaped band-aid. Who knows what the next Nina would or could have been. Looking at all this, you might ask yourself, but why make the replacement lungs look like wings? Which is a fair question. I would think that the imagery they were thinking of... Hold on. While we're in town, let me just grab my fairy drops real quick before we continue. Gotta check on my ants. You would have found out about this on your first go-through, before the gas attack on the lower sector. A fairy is trapped behind a door. Give them a hand and ka-frizzle! Time to manage a whole colony. The ants function as a meta progression between playthroughs. No matter what happens to you in the main game, these little lads will chug along. Once hired, you can order them to dig to expand the colony, and once rooms are found, the ants can be put to work in shops, banks, cafeterias, all in service of you and them. At first, they need to be paid out of pocket, limiting your already sparse wallet, though as the colony grows, the ants can start making you money. Once it's all set up, just find some enemies to fight, and the work will continue in the background, using the fairy drops to check in once in a while. It's really handy to have a portable shop to sell junk whenever you need the room, or to hold on to money in between playthroughs. They made my replays infinitely easier. Hey wait, this is starting to sound like a roguelike. No, bad dog, down. Meta progression mechanics does not a roguelike make, okay? Sure, this game is designed for replayability, it has some of the trappings. Like I said multiple times, it's closer to a Resident Evil, where we're showing mastery over a closed loop of content, all reimagined in a JRPG package. That all being said though, there is some shuffling going on between playthroughs, or what I think the reason is, between ratios. In the grand scheme of things, it's very minor. This monster is now something else. This nugget that jump scares you between doors is now big. I also feel like I'm finding way more escape items, and let me tell you, having the text ESCAPE printed on the screen frequently triggers my fight or flight. Anyway, ants. I was talking about ants. The big reward with sticking with the colony is Coke and Hooray. which is some kind of endgame combat dungeon thing. Its design is a little messy. Okay, get this. Once you enter, your level resets to 1 while you're in here. Gotcha. But you bring all the items you have on you inside, and your equipment, which signals to me that I'm not touching this until the very end. Backed up by the penalty of failure being all of your items being lost. So maybe you gear up for a quick expedition to check it out. And then you realize you still have all your party XP. Level 1? More like whatever level I want it to be. D-gauges were set while you're in here too, so go wild, I guess. What seemed like a daunting challenge soon became a farming spot for XP. Jump into the first room, group them all up, de-laser, leave, rinse and repeat. Very baffling, I must admit. What's at the bottom? Okay, I can tell you that. I know you'll never do this, don't pretend. We all have games that I'm totally gonna 100% it one day. Let me do that for you. I'll show you what's waiting for you down here. What are we looking at? I'm not really sure. It looks dangerous. Maybe got some horns? Oh no. I think it might be a dragon. Oh shit, get up! Attack! Quick! First turn! It was certainly a fight. Immune to dragon attacks after the first hit, makes it vulnerable to everything else. Everything on the way here was way harder, I assure you. I was holding on to my D ratio because I was afraid that whatever was at the bottom of this dungeon would have been the most pain in the ass. Coming near with a full meter, I climbed on it. I climbed on it pretty hard. Thankfully, I got some gear and some OP spells should I want a gun for a 1/4 playthrough. Coconut Ray is only worth it for those who want to see everything. What were we talking about before the ants? Wings! We're talking about wings. Okay. One might assume that they look like wings because Nina has wings in Breath of Fire games. And that's probably one of the reasons, maybe even the main reason. For Dragonquarter specifically, it was an order from Elyon himself. Remember him? The blue guy? Alright, so to explain all of this, let's go from the top of the food chain down. And there can only be one thing above everything else. Dragons. Or rather, dragon halves. Being created from the actual dragons that destroyed the surface. Did the game tell me this? No. The why they were made is lost to time. Maybe the creators knew that this world would also need to end. It's unclear. What's crystal clear is their ability to link with humans, granting them untold power, assuming one does not fall victim to their intense will. It's thought that only those with a ratio of 1/4 are possible for this feat. Hence the title of the game, Dragonquarter. Ah, it all came back full circle. The first human that linked with the dragons was Elyon, D ratio 1/4. He battled his way through the world, past the regions, and reached the hatch that led to the sky. Doubt plagued his mind though, mere inches from changing the world. Is this what I want, or is this the dragon's will? Am I still myself? The indecision festered, causing him to fail his task. He broke the link to the dragon and became the new leader of the Regents. The only way he could dispel his doubt is if someone weaker than him could do what he did, or what that means for the people of the world, a person with a lower D ratio. A few did get chosen, but none could get past the trials he set up, despite the vision of the Regents. And that vision shows man would gain wings and return to the sky. I'd imagine anyone being chosen by a dragon would fulfill a prophecy like that. Gaining their overwhelming power, the ability to rise to the top of the food chain could be seen as wings, but nevertheless, Elyon in his decline in health pushed the vision to its limits, ordering the creation of a human that could purify the air. The wings. These wings, along with helping Ryu, a person with an absurdly low D ratio, link with the dragon. The last gambit to prove he was wrong all those years ago. And who knows how all of this would have played out, if not for the aspirations of one Bosch. Let me ask you a question. If a prodigy at chess beats some rando, would you even bat an eye? Would you even register it as a memory? When the situation is reversed, and the lower beats the elite, the eyebrows begin to raise. Bash, raised by a harsh parent, made to kill at a young age. There's talk of him being the next chosen, someone to lead the world into the future. All this gets disrupted when he tried to kill Ryu. Time after time, this damages both his ego and his reputation. The only way to solve this problem is obviously more violence. Bash has his arm replaced by a previous chosen, but not the same one as Ryu. This is a new dragon, T.R.A.G. We don't see this other dragon in game, well, apart from the end, but you know what I mean. Just that he's a wildcard to this whole situation. After being defeated by Ryu a second time, T.R.A.G takes over. Cool scene, huh? That's all we get. That's all we see. He clearly has some beef with the other dragon, and that too is not elaborated on. All we can deduce is, it's probably a terrible idea to let him reach the sky. I guess my biggest problem is, all I can take from thinking about and reading up on the story of dragonquarter, I wish there was more like a prologue book or some kind of external media. I would love to see more about these characters, especially the likes of Captain Xeno. I've barely shown footage of her. I doubt you even registered she was a character. And that's because story-wise she's just an obstacle. Apparently she's a mentor of Ryu who despised the D-ratio caste system, which is why her moves mirror Ryu's. But her loyalty to the Rangers maintained the status quo. To see any of that would have been great, to explore it in any degree, and make her boss fight all the more tragic. Same goes for some of the regions. Why was this system of government formed? Who were they before? There's only so much a pool table and a bottle of whiskey can do to tell a story. I can see snippets of greatness. Currently it's a cool system for telling a story that promotes the gameplay style it's going for. But nothing else really. It's no wonder that the previous games could catch my whimsy, get me interested in the lives of people who were ultimately just existing in the world. Do you remember Tab from Breath of Fire 4? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But he's just someone who's working on removing Hex from a town. He has a crew he cares for, and he has a tail. That alone stands out in my memory way more than a single NPC in dragonquarter. The most memorable I can think of right now, if you were to ask me, is the grandpa who wants to take his kids somewhere. There's just no room for anyone who's not plot important. With the PS2 growing alongside the very players it captured the imagination of, games and stories became more adult on that system, willing to explore darker tones, or at least dealing with the grim easier. And dragonquarter feels at home in this environment. Alas, that errant thought just keeps coming back to me. Did this have to be a Breath of Fire? It's so radical in its design, so confident in what it wants to be, so clearly itself. And no matter how much I kick or complain, this is the director's vision of what the series could be. The last Breath of Fire people cared about. It should have been called something else. It's not the magical catch-all idea you think it is. All it does is validate your negative feelings and puts them in a nice tidy box. Things change for better or worse. We need to appreciate what this game did, its accomplishments, and what it tried to do. After years of thinking the same thing, Breath of Fire dragonquarter is a pretty sick game, and I can't take that away from it. Hello, and welcome to the end of the video, a place where I apologize for taking 3 months. For the background footage, considering the zooming effect of dragonquarter, I can't just leave that footage in the background, so I think I'm going to put something more pleasant to look at. We'll see what I decide on, but I have a funny feeling it'll be Rabbit and Steel. So let me explain to you what the plan was with this video. I had just finished up the Shadowheart series, which both videos were decently sized projects, I thought to myself, I need something that won't take too long. And that's not part of a series. I have this problem that if I want to cover something, I feel like I have to start from the beginning, because that's what you do, right? It's the logical thing. To push against this idea, I picked dragonquarter. It helps that I really wanted to play it, and I failed to make a video about it in 2022. I finish a playthrough, and I read up on the D ratio system. Feck, better do another. All the while, I'm writing the script. And I keep writing. And I keep writing. It doesn't feel like there's any fat to trim. I just have so much to say about this game that I want to keep in. By the time I have another 18 hours worth of footage from my second and third playthrough, I'm sitting at 10 pages of words. And for reference, my scripts don't look pretty. They're just giant clumps of text. Here you go, you can see it for yourself. Yeah, certainly a bunch of words, huh? Double feck. This was supposed to be easy. I plan on starting Wild Arms this year, and it's now July. Dawn Trail comes out. I agreed to do Savage again this tier, so that eats away at my time. I was also streaming regularly again, and that had to be put on hold, so I could get more editing done. By the way, I stream FuzzyKey Live, Saturday and Sunday, 7 PM GMT. I'm probably gonna go play Ratchet & Clank after all this to decompress. The first one. Maybe the whole series, we'll see. It just became a whole mess of things. Thankfully, it was a learning experience. I think it had a positive effect on the video, and on that end, I would like any feedback. As I've been editing it, I've been flip-flopping between, man, this is a good video, and man, this is trash. So, I would like to ask for feedback. If you made it through watching the whole video, you probably have maybe a thought or two. I guess, I can't say it's imposter syndrome, I don't have anyone to imposter yet. But maybe that's imposter syndrome. Ooh, I don't know. Maybe I'm fishing for compliments. Maybe I'm trying to be better. I don't know. I have a script in front of me, but I've completely gone off of it. Because now, like, the real words are coming out. But I need to cut that short before we get all existential. But on that topic, as a show of good faith, let me tell you what my plan is for the rest of the year. The next video is T.R.A.G, 100%. I already got stuff recorded and I want to make it. I want to play through it again. After all that, we'll be doing Parasite Eve 2, hopefully for Halloween, but I'm guessing it'll be a tad late. That game also has replayability built in, though I'm not sure how interesting the extra modes are. And if time allows, I would like to finish this year up with Dual Hearts, aka Alundra 3. I don't know if people actually call it Alundra 3. I don't know. But good lord does it feel like that. People like to shit on Alundra 2, it's not Alundra, it was made by a different dev company. It was made by the Wild Arms people, ironically enough. But goddamn does it feel like Alundra, it's crazy. If I really dig my heels in, I might get 4 videos out, but let's not cash any checks my D ratio can't cover. I wrote that joke, I put that joke in the script? And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.